parts of this community. But for today, thank you to the program committee who culled through many papers and other requests to be presenters here. We had a hit rate of about 50%. We were only able to accept about 50%. We saw more submissions this year than we ever have in the past. And these are very thoughtful talks that our community wanted to share. And I'm so sorry that we couldn't accept all of them. But perhaps you'll take time today to listen to all these very compelling talks, and thank you so much to our speakers who are joining us to share their technical leadership, to share their market opportunities together with this group. Thank you also to our generous sponsors. Without sponsors, we wouldn't have coffee, we wouldn't have cool things to learn and see and do. And thank you so much to the generosity of our sponsors. Thank you as well to our members. You'll see today how many members have joined this revolution, and it really is a revolution on so many levels. Parts of the world, in all parts of the ecosystem, in numerous domains. This is our time. This is our time for radical disruption of an industry that has been humming along kind of quietly for about the last 30 years. Back in the 1980s, there was a processor war. That processor war was driven by many proprietary architectures kind of battling for the same thing. A system that would plug into the wall with a constant supply of energy, something that could sit on your desktop or in your data center. Moving forward, we saw, well, we need some different dimensions here. We need something with power consumption that's much lower for our mobile devices. Continue to move forward, and in the 2000s, we started to see more advances in IoT. We're continuing to see that today. And there's tremendous opportunity for disrupting the status quo through custom hardware, through dispelling the myths of the proprietary architectures that we've been reliant on in the past. So I encourage you to engage in the many dimensions. In fact, we've got many areas that we're starting to see take traction already. You see cloud and data center applications, from Alibaba in China to Facebook in Silicon Valley. We're seeing a lot of momentum around the world. We're seeing advances in mobile and wireless. We're seeing automotive start to take hold. So these are some of the great opportunities that are driving demand for a custom approach. And that's something that you can do readily on Risc V. But that community isn't just an industry focus. There are so many talents that have come together in this community, from the chip and ASIC parts to the universities and academia, looking through various industry applications from cloud to HPC, looking at the I/O and memory and other interconnects, thinking about the services and the other pieces of the ecosystem. This is a community of collaborators. This is not a community that looks to compete on all elements, but there is some competition as well. And that's the beauty of open source. We can come together on the pieces that are our foundational building blocks, while also understanding that there's plenty of room for differentiation. We are looking at this through many lenses. There are many dimensions to community, and we must do that at a global level. Geography is only one dimension of community. And through that, we see a global partnership. We see global partners spanning across industries that are looking for the best designs, the best manufacturing, and the best opportunities for verification, compliance, and all the other tools and resources. By taking a global approach to our partnerships, we can take a global approach to opportunity. Let's take a little bit of a walk around the world. So in China, we are seeing hundreds joining into the Risc V revolution. In Beijing and in Shanghai, we have Risc V associations that have sprung up. We're having another one coming through as well, focused on a Risc V lab. We recently helped to support the launch of a Tsinghua Berkeley lab in Shenzhen. We are seeing actual engagement at all levels, from academia to industry. In Europe, we recently hosted our workshop in Zurich, and it was tremendous to see the very many stakeholders we saw, from security and HPC through the European Processor Initiative, as well as many different stakeholders across different flavors that are developing on Risc V. So we're very pleased to team up with ETH Zurich to host that conference. In India has had tremendous investment through the Shakti project with 6 different processors funded. The Shakti project is just really got the momentum going. Recently, in this last fall, we had an online conference, a live online conference with thousands of folks joining in for a live talks and live Q&A. We need to try that in other parts of the world too. That's the beauty of massive geography community. What we see working in one place, we can replicate in another. In Japan, we saw a 50% increase in the number of attendees in Tokyo Day. It was a beautiful event. It blew me away. More than 300 people came together that day at Hitachi's beautiful campus to learn more about Risc V. And this was not a quiet crowd. This was a crowd that had questions, that wanted to really deeply engage. In fact, I went to the reception that night, and it was a 2-hour reception, and I literally stood in one spot for 2.5 hours with just a constant stream of dialogues. It was amazing. The level of energy and the level of commitment that we're seeing there was just, really swelled our hearts. In North America, we're seeing continued integration in existing products through NVIDIA with GPUs, with Western Digital and storage. We're seeing continued innovations transpiring and continued collaborations ongoing. Just this week, we heard about more folks that are in the Risc V community that are startups, starting new businesses. It's not just for the large corporations, but it's also for our entrepreneurs. There's never been a better time to start a business in microprocessors. In fact, I don't know of another time when it was this affordable as well. Pakistan. This has got to be one of my favorite pictures of the year. I so wish that I could have been there that day. The excitement and initiative that we see going on there that Sci-Fi led through one of their technical symposiums. In fact, they had 2 and saw over 3,000 people that are really saying, you know what? It's our turn. We want to participate. We want to be part of the semiconductor revolution. Count us in. So welcome to the revolution. Whether you're looking at it through the lens of a supplier, through an end user in a marketplace, whether you're looking at it as a student or as a seasoned practitioner, whether you're looking at it as a standard or as open source, we welcome you. In fact, we are growing at a rapid clip. We now have more than 435 members, probably 440 by now. And we're seeing them across a huge diversity. I remember being in Estonia. In Estonia, it is actually easier to start a new company than it is to file your taxes. 5 minutes online. And what I learned there is that there's such a desire, such an appetite to engage in the next revolution of technology. Risc V presents that opportunity. So here we are today. That blue line is continuing to grow. We're continuing to gauge across multiple parts of this ecosystem, multiple parts of this community. And the excitement that I glean every day from this community, it energizes me. It's energizing our technical working groups. And for this, we are maturing as an organization. So I want to turn now to some transitions that we're going through and invite you to come with us. First, we'll be moving into some new membership levels. I'll describe those shortly. Those membership levels will help us to support incredible programming to serve all of us. Risc V Foundation is successful when our members are successful. And so to help foster that success, to grow talent, to grow opportunities, we are going to be funding 6 fundamental programs to help this community. We're opening technical development. Until now, we've had all of our technical groups have been developing in a confidential mode with final output as open and accessible to all. We are shifting to an open mode, right? We will be making our technical work groups non-confidential and moving that, and continuing to have open source deliverables. You still need to be a member to participate, but we will have read-only access for non-members as well. We want to increase our transparency as an organization across our 20+ work groups. Governance. Governance is really tied closely to membership levels. And right now we need to shift to better representation across all of our membership levels. So you'll see that as we increase our ratios of board participation across members. And some of you may have heard that we're reincorporating in Switzerland. I wish I could stand here today and tell you, oh, it's a done deal. We are still navigating the nuances of that incorporation, but expect that we'll complete that by the end of the year. These changes we expect to go into effect as of January 1st. These are those 6 programs that I told you are going to help us deliver value. First, technical deliverables. We will strengthen all of our technical work groups with solid programs, resources, and other development assets to help us progress quickly, to help us fill out the ecosystem together with our members. Compliance and verification. This is the part where we've got some things that we've developed already, and we're going to continue to buckle down and improve on that. Visibility. Some people call this marketing, but I really think it's shedding light on the tremendous progress that this community is making. So that's talks, that's participating in blogs, it's participating in events, it's engaging with the press and analysts as well. Learning and talent. Today I did this in China, I had 80 new friends by the end of the talk. So if you're on WeChat, so am I. But there are also other ways to connect. Please follow us as an organization on Twitter, please follow us on LinkedIn, and engage and add your voice to this revolution. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor UC Berkeley and Chief Architect at Sci-5, Krista Asanovich.
Hello, can you hear me? Good morning. It's great to see so many of you here, San Jose, for the second summit. I'm wearing the T-shirt from Hot Chips Days. It's getting a bit threadbare, but I think it still looks good. It reminds me of the very first time we pushed this out into the public. So I'm going to give the State of the Union, and what we do in this segment is sort of more the technical underpinnings, go through what's been happening technically in the foundation, also just some thoughts about how we should be doing things. So I always like to start with the origin story. How many of you, this is your first time at a summit or workshop? Wow. Okay, so this is your one slide, catch-up slide. How did Risc V start? So back in 2010 at Berkeley, we were doing the Parlab project, and we needed an instruction set. And we wanted something that was simple to build, because I was working with a small group of grad students. Had to be efficient. We were focused on low power design, efficient architectures. We also wanted high performance. Had to be extensible. The whole goal of the research there was building customized processors to do various tasks. And being academic and wanting to work with others, we wanted to share what we did with everybody else, mainly academic colleagues we were thinking at the time, so we could build infrastructure, build devices, get results, share it with our colleagues. So when we looked around thinking about what ISA to use, we figured out, well, no existing ISA really meets our needs. So this is when we decided to go create Risc V. And so I'll give a shout out to the original inventors, so Andrew Waterman, Jan Sablee, Dave Patterson, and myself. And since then, there's been many, many other people who have helped us with the ISA, but these were the original creators. So we built this for ourselves, and it turns out something simple, efficient, extensible, that you can share. We weren't the only ones who wanted that. There seemed to be a few other people who thought that was a good idea. So many others wanted these same things, and that's kind of how this whole movement began. So from that initial rollout in 2014, we started in 2010. In 2014, we went to Hot Chips with these t-shirts, went around promoting Risc V, And that's really when it started rolling out to the wider world. And since then, there's been very rapid uptake everywhere with Risc V. So a quick timeline, I'll just go back, give you a quick history lesson. So 2010, we started the project. The first tape out of Risc V was actually in 2011 in a 28 nanometer FDSOI technology from ST. It was a 64-bit core. It actually ran Risc V instructions of that first version. The first Rocket chip is a well-known open source implementation. The first tape out from there was in 2012, and so on. So over time, we built the chips, we did the compiler ports, we did the operating system ports, and in 2014, we decided the ISA was kind of ready for pushing out there. So that's when we went to Hot Chips, proclaimed we have ISA, frozen ISA version 2.0, and gave it to the community. And the first workshop was held, there's a big response at Hot Chips. The first workshop was held beginning of 2015. And that same year, later that same year, the feedback from industry was, we cannot rely on a university project. There has to be a more stable home for this. And that's why we created the foundation in 2015 to be an independent nonprofit to manage this standard. Now, some of the major milestones in the early days of Risc V, the early days being a couple of years ago, were in 2016, NVIDIA announced they'd selected Risc V to use as a controller in all their GPUs. That was a major endorsement from a leading computer architecture maker.